the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Sullivan.
He's not here tonight.
Trustee Barrow.
Here.
Trustee Dodd.
Here.
Trustee Kurzman.
Here.
Trustee Kennedy.
Here.
Trustee Plunkett. And President Belinsky.
Here. So we do have a couple members missing tonight, but we still have a quorum, and my condolences out to Trustee Plunkett. Her mother passed away recently, and I believe that's why she's not attending the meeting tonight. This meeting is being conducted remotely via the Microsoft Teams software. For those of you watching this video in the future, the state of Illinois, oops, I didn't realize my video is not on, sorry. The state of Illinois is currently under a stay-at-home order, which was issued by Governor Pritzker due to the coronavirus global pandemic. As a result, all in-person village governmental meetings have been canceled. However, the state has also suspended the Open Meetings Act to permit electronic meetings of governmental bodies like the village board, and we are conducting our business tonight in compliance with the guidelines from the state. As usual, this meeting is being broadcast live on our local access cable channel number 6 and on the internet at youtube.com. I will read the URL for that, www.youtube.com/user/villageofwilmette/live. One more time, youtube.com/user/villageofwilmette/live, and there's no spaces or dashes or anything there. A recording of this meeting will be archived on the village's YouTube website, as we do with all of our other televised public meetings. Now, a remote meeting obviously requires a different mechanic for public participation, so to ensure our residents, business owners, and other interested parties have the opportunity to participate in this meeting, we have solicited public comment prior to the start of the meeting via email. So if you sent an email to publiccomment@wilmette.com prior to the start of this meeting, our staff will read the email during the public comment portion of our agenda. If members of the public who are watching the broadcast would like to participate during our designated public comment periods, you may submit your comments through YouTube Live, and if you're watching on the television, you may want to pull that website up instead if you are planning to comment. The chat box, I'm told, is just to the right of the video screen. And if you submit a comment in that way, a member of the village staff will read your comments to the village board at the appropriate time. All comments from the public will be recorded into the meeting minutes as we typically do. Now, before each meeting, the board receives a packet of agenda materials, and these materials are also posted on wilmette.com on the Friday before our meeting, so that residents and other interested parties can review the very same materials that board members receive. This week's packet contained 93 pages. I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 2, public comment. And as I said, at an in-person meeting during public comment, individuals would be allotted up to 3 minutes to address the board on an item which is not on the agenda tonight. However, again, this meeting is being conducted remotely, so I will now ask people who are watching on YouTube Live to submit comments for the village staff to read. You can find that chat window just to the right of the YouTube Live video window. While they're typing, I will ask whether any public comments were submitted in advance of the meeting. So, Mr. Artiega, did you receive any comments in advance of the meeting?
Yep, we have received 4 public comments in advance of this meeting.
All right, please read away.
Absolutely. Okay, the first public comment from Barbara Sozkarski. As we won't be able to attend the meeting tonight, we appreciate the opportunity to express our opinions. We feel masks are useful in indoor venue situations, but would like to see some of the COVID restrictions lifted to allow our residents to take some responsibility for their own safety. We would welcome the opening of public/park district spaces and activities, as well as local business activity, including restaurants, especially those with outdoor seating. Thank you. And that's from the Sozkarski Diamond household. And let's see. I'll move on to the second message we received. This is from Roberto Mazza. To whom it may concern, I would like to highlight an emerging issue related to the disposal of masks and gloves outside supermarkets and restaurants in Wilmette. I would urge my fellow Wilmettians to please dispose of those items using the rubbish bins available everywhere. I hope the village will encourage people to behave accordingly. Best wishes, Dr. Roberto Mazza. Okay. I'll move on to the third comment. This is from resident Jay Schwartz. When was the 5-stage Restore Illinois, dated May 5th, 2020, passed by the Illinois legislature? I don't believe it was, and Governor J.B. Pritzker usurped his 28-day authority with this document and is now acting as an authoritarian dictator. Our constitutional rights and freedom are now being violated by the Governor of Illinois, and I propose the Village of Wilmette not abide by these arbitrary rules and let each citizen use their own common sense about conducting their lives. Sincerely, Jay Schwartz. I will move on to the next comment. This is from Jasmine Hauser. My name is Jasmine Hauser. Would you please read the following during the public comment at tonight's Village Board meeting? Having lived in Wilmette for over 15 years, it is heartbreaking to see small businesses dying because of the shutdown of our economy. A simple comment, reopen Wilmette. We can reopen Wilmette safely, responsibly maintaining social distancing, washing hands, using disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer at venues. In the process, we will save the lives and livelihoods of our friends and neighbors. Sincerely, Jasmine. And I believe we actually just received one more public comment to our public comment email. I will read that now. This is from Mark Weiermuller, a Wilmette resident. With the current health crisis, I ask the Wilmette Board to lead the charge to reopen Wilmette tomorrow safely with mitigation, social distancing, and masks. In addition, I ask the Board to freeze spending, borrowing, capital plans, and lower the tax levy. Please help us reopen Illinois now. From Mark Weiermuller. And those are all the comments we've received through public comment at wilmette.com.
Are there any comments that anyone submitted via YouTube Live?
Let's see. There is one comment. I emailed in two, but we read all the comments that were emailed in.
So I'm sorry, there was a comment submitted on YouTube Live that said there was an email that was submitted.
Correct. Yep. Unfortunately, the comment on YouTube Live does not have a name on it, so I'm not sure which previous email I had read it was.
Okay. Very good. Moving on, we'll move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda. As described on the agenda, items which are routine business that are not normally debated by the village board are placed on the consent agenda. All items tonight, beginning with the number 3, are on the consent agenda, and it's rather short tonight. It's just 6 items, items 3.1 through 3.6. Items on the consent agenda are up for approval tonight, and if an item is not removed by a member of the audience and is not removed by one of the trustees, the item will be approved and will not be discussed. So I'll begin by asking members of the audience, the viewing public right now, are there any items that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? So people who are watching on YouTube Live should now submit those requests. And while they might be typing, I will check with the staff. Mr. Artiega, did we receive any requests prior to the meeting to remove any items from the consent agenda?
We did not.
Okay, and we'll give, since that was a very quick answer, we'll give people a moment on YouTube Live in case they're looking to submit something. It's obviously working because we actually did get a comment tonight, even if the comment was just that I had already submitted a comment via email. So it is working. That's good. So any requests from anybody to remove any items from the consent agenda?
There are no requests, no.
Okay, are there any items that any of the trustees would like to remove from the consent agenda?
No.
All right. I'm sorry, was that?
No.
Okay.
No.
So may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
I think Trustee Kennedy was in there under the wire there,
No,
Trustee
not
Barrow,
me.
but I'll give you the opportunity to second if you'd like.
All right. Thank you. I'll be.
I didn't say anything.
I think it
I'll
was
be.
Dodd.
It was Trustee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee
Not
Dodd
okay.
had the motion and Trustee Barrow with the second.
You got it.
Correct.
All right, would the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Trustee Barrow. Aye. Trustee Dodd.
Aye.
Trustee Kurzman.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
President Belinsky.
Aye, so the motion carries. The consent agenda has been adopted. We'll move on to item 4, report of officers. Item 4.1 is report from Corporation Counsel regarding remote meetings of the village board during the governor's executive order declaring an emergency. So I will turn the floor over to Mr. Stein, our Corporation Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the President stated at the last meeting, I was directed to provide a memorandum on the ability of the village to have remote or electronic meetings and what can be on those agendas for those meetings. First, we'll take the ability of a remote meeting, electronic meeting. The governor's order has expressly suspended the physically present requirement of the Open Meetings Act, therefore allowing for electronic meetings. This was also discussed by the Attorney General and the Attorney General's guidance on remote meetings as electronic meetings, such as we're having, as one of the safer options. Therefore, based upon that, the village has its own emergency order, which was enacted by the village president and then later adopted by the village board, which authorizes electronic meetings, expressly authorizes electronic meetings as well. And that includes, obviously, meetings of the village board as well as any subsequent subsidiary body when the meeting is necessary. The village determines what is necessary and when a meeting is necessary. And it's important to realize that it's not just the village board that's affected by this order, but all the meetings, all the public bodies, and therefore the village board, though, is the sole arbiter of when a meeting is necessary or not necessary, as determined by both the Attorney General as well as the most recent case coming out of, well, not presidential, definitely enlightening, coming out of Will County. These are all specifically, all these rulings are specifically provided in the 10-page memorandum submitted to the village board last week, and which is part of the agenda packet. Furthermore, the second component of that was, are there any limitations on the agenda items? And those limitations are those that have necessary or an immediate need. There is no black and white law on what is necessary, what is an immediate need. And in fact, the Joliet case went so far as to say that the village board, or in that case, I'm sorry, the city council, determines what is important or not important to its necessary operations. As such, though, the village staff has been putting reasoning as to why it believes that an agenda item is necessary or has an immediate need. However, at any point that a majority of the village board believes that something should be delayed, a motion to table would be warranted. Obviously, a second and a vote on that would handle any matter that this board does not believe is an immediate need. All these items are discussed very thoroughly within the memorandum. I've threatened to read the entire memorandum tonight, but I'm not going to do that. But if there's any questions or anything, I can certainly address them now or at any point even offline. Thank you, Mr. President.
So are there any questions for Corporation Counsel?
I just have one question. I just wanted to, does this apply to, you indicated this applies to our other meetings. So for any residents who might be listening, I just wanted to ask, is our zoning board meeting, if there are zoning issues that come in front of that, permits that are submitted that require a variance?
So we are working on opening up the zoning board as well as the plan commission, ARC, and the Historic Preservation Commission. Right now, all meetings are canceled per the executive order. That can change, obviously, with the village president of this board. The reasoning why those are being delayed right now is because they require public hearings. And public hearings are different than public comment. They're more interactive. There's a cross-examination component. If a resident or somebody, or even a non-resident, somebody wanted to ask questions. So we had a little bit of a hiccup with the technology on how to do that, but we have worked it out. And right now, currently, I'm working with staff, with John Adler and Lisa Roberts, on certain identifications that we require of applicants, as well as the new public hearing rules. So we do intend on having them relatively soon. I would think sometime in June, not July, but right now we can't. Well, at this point, we couldn't have it. We have all these other components in place.
Thank you.
One question for Mr. Stein. Mr. Stein, do the boards have the same degree of discretion for matters that come before them? Can they choose to hear or not hear a matter based upon a determination of necessity or importance?
They do to a certain extent. The village president or the village board later in a resolution would have to allow for those meetings to happen. Because under the authority of the emergency powers that we have, or that the village board has, you can cancel all meetings, and that's what we've done. So to open it up, to make a meeting allowed, we could do so through that power, through the village board. Then the matters that are on the agenda for each particular specific board would be determined by that board if they are necessary or not. However, there would be also some sort of component of what's necessary to proceed forward coming from the village board as well. So we would, the way I'm thinking it is, the village board would open up a zoning board meeting, let's say, and say that all current applications are deemed able to be heard. Then the zoning board could, on its own, say, well, you know, this actually there's no immediate need, and they will continue into another matter. A power that they currently have anyway to continue matters, even without this kind of crazy old trial world we're in right now.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Stein. We appreciate that. We'll move on to the rest of the officer reports. I actually have a report tonight. I'd just like to share, my perspective on our remote meetings and sort of how we're proceeding philosophically here. So I'll start by just saying, people who have heard me say this before, I apologize, but village government, we are a service organization. It exists to provide service to its residents, and those services, of course, include things like fire and police protection, public works, waters and sewers, roads, all the stuff that are the obvious things. But the administrative work that we do is also a service, and as we've already talked here, implementation of the zoning code by the Zoning Board of Appeals, by the Plan Commission, and by us is a service that we provide to the community. If you've read the governor's Restore Illinois plan, it includes social distancing and limiting the size of gatherings for the foreseeable future. And so we may be conducting remote meetings for some time. And so I believe we need to continue to conduct our business. We still publish our meeting agenda on the same schedule and in the same way as we did prior to the crisis. We've provided opportunities for the public to participate, and we have continued to receive public comment. And Mr. Stein didn't mention it, but the technological thing that they're figuring out, and which should come to probably also our public meetings going forward or in the very near future, is the ability to have public comment come via the telephone. And that would allow for more of that interactive participation in a public hearing relating to a zoning case or plan commission case. So in some ways, it will actually be easier for the public to participate in our remote meetings than it is an in-person meeting, because you don't have to show up. Now, if we have some completely new idea, some idea which has not been previously discussed at all publicly, something that may be very controversial or otherwise of interest to a significant portion of the public, look, for those types of issues, we will, of course, have to be very careful with our approach. But otherwise, I think we should continue to do our work. It's important that village government keeps functioning and keeps providing service to the greatest extent possible during the crisis, and I think the staff deserves a lot of credit for sort of that publicly facing experience, the public safety and public works and the like. And we are still taking permits, and if you looked at the permit activity last month, there was still quite a bit. So anyways, all that said, if any of the trustees have concerns about any of the items that are on a future meeting's agenda, please feel free to reach out to me or to the village manager prior to the meeting to express your concern. And as Mr. Stein said, of course, if a majority of the village board wishes to table an item, it will be tabled for future consideration. But as he communicates, Mr. Stein just communicated, it's ultimately the village board exercising its judgment that determines what actions are taken at meetings. So those are my thoughts philosophically, and what goes into the meat of the orders, obviously, are what we're following. And if I suspect we would have to amend the emergency declaration that this board has ratified to allow for those other meetings, because right now they're currently all canceled except for ours. That's accurate, right, Mr. Stein?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the report from our village manager, Mr. Brayman.
No report, Mr. President.
Mr. Stein, do you have any further report?
No, give me my report.
Okay, that would be unusual if you would have 2 reports in one night, but I thought I would check. Item 5 is the report of the Liquor Control Commissioner. There's no report tonight, so we'll move on to item 6, which is our standing committee reports. Item 6.1 is Trustee Barrow. Land use.
No report, Mr. President.
And that is just a sign of the times, isn't it? That there's no report for the Land Use Committee. The Finance Committee is Trustee Kennedy.
No report this evening.
Administration Committee, Trustee Dodd.
All items listed on consent.
The Municipal Services Committee had a single item on the consent agenda. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Kurzman.
No report.
And then the Judiciary Committee had no report tonight. There are no reports from our special committees. Item 7 is new business. There's no new business to discuss. Item 8 is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
So that was Trustee Dodd. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Trustee Kennedy. Would the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adjourn? I was about to say all those in favor say aye, but would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Barrow.
Aye.
Trustee Dodd.
Aye.
Trustee Kurzman.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
President Belinsky.
Aye. So the motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone, again.